Hello, I'm Jon Sermon, a church leader based in the UK. And here in the UK, we're a week and a half into the second lockdown for 4 weeks, unless it gets extended, of course. And really still needing, I think, a lot of encouragement in what are difficult circumstances. You know, one of the things that's important from a faith perspective is we are not pretending that God enables believers to escape the troubles everyone else has. Far from it. But what we do find is that our relationship with God helps us through those circumstances, and that's important. Whether the attitudes of the whole nation, the whole community, could in any way make a difference is difficult to say. But it's interesting to note that in this morning's service I was looking at the book of Judges in the Old Testament part of the Bible, and a pattern that seemed to happen again and again in that era, that God's people, the nation of Israel as they were then, would constantly turn away from God and ignore him. And the outcome seemed to be that an enemy would invade the land. And when they suffered oppression, sometimes for many years, under such an enemy, they'd eventually refocus their thoughts and turn back to God, cry out to God for help, and then God raised up a judge to be the one who would rescue the nation and put them back on course. Now, it would be interesting to think what would be a parallel today, whether a new president in the United States, or a new prime minister in our country, or a new government in any country, or someone of a social standing such as to have influence without an official position, or indeed the Queen, or who it might be, would there be someone who could call the nation back to taking God seriously, like happened in those days? And you can't help but wonder, would it do us good in the aftermath of all this, or even while it's still ongoing, to refocus? And if, along with the whole of the community, we as individuals have been slipping into living as though God is irrelevant or doesn't exist, speaking as though God is irrelevant or doesn't exist, might now be a good time to actually stop and think, is this wise or unwise? Would it be better to turn back and acknowledge our Creator and notice how God wants to invite us into relationship with himself that could carry us through, whether or not the circumstances continue to be as difficult as they are, or even get worse? Fact is that none of us are immune from the difficulties, but God promises his people in the prophet Isaiah, also in the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 43, there's a passage that symbolizes all the difficulties like floods and fire. And it says, when you walk through the waters, you will not be overwhelmed, and when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, because I am the Lord your God, and I'm with you. Honestly, even today, even in our circumstances, it's possible to know that the Lord our God is with us. I would encourage you in that, and encourage you into seeking him and praying and developing your relationship with God for your own benefit and for the good of society as a whole. God bless you.